The comedy and the livelihood of this season has been drier than a Merlot. You see what I did there?
Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Mark and I are talking about the thrilling wine-based series on Apple TV, Drops of God, Season 2, Episode 5. Trust me, so spoilers are ahead. Quick thank you to our channel members for continuing to support us so that we can put out these videos. Now, let's get into the video. Let's start off with one of the few kind of wine-based scene in this wine-based drama, allegedly, which is, Camille and Davit and the little will they, won't they going on there.
I do feel like, again, wine has taken a backseat. It was weird because that scene, we gotta get to tasting the wine. We gotta get you all caught up, which also seems like such a weird thing to be doing with the context of what happened in this episode. Like, why do we care? I don't know. But then it also went from, wine can connect you to emotions, but then forget about wine. Music is what connects you to emotion. And we're going to focus on music and what the music makes you feel. And I don't know. The wine is taking a backseat to everything.
And they described the wine more like art or music, rather than describing it like wine. She even encouraged him to close his eyes and kind of tell a story based off of what he tasted, versus tell me what tasting notes you get, instead it was close your eyes and tell me a story. And
the story didn't feel, someone that is not trained in understanding how wine relates to a story in himself. Now he's just telling a story of how he wants to bump uglies with Camille. It seemed like he wasn't even like he was just making up a story just so he could hit on Camille.
Correct. It didn't feel like he actually was following the assignment, and instead he was just being a horn dog. And look, I'm not one to say, that she's asking for it, because I do think that that's inappropriate to use that. But I do think that there were things that she was doing that encouraged that behavior, So for instance,
she didn't shut it down.
She didn't shut it down. So it's first off, she's like, let me set the mood. What do you mean mood? They're studying is what they're supposed to be doing. You don't set the mood for studying. Maybe you put on classical music so you can focus, or some other type of music that helps you focus, but that's not let's set the mood.
I missed the part when Camille in the first season was setting the mood to try to win the competition the first time. I missed that part. I didn't see that part where she had to set the mood.
And then when he starts telling the story that you mentioned, he says something about I'm making love to you. And she doesn't shut that down. She's not like that.
Hey, whoa, inappropriate, buddy.
Yeah, I've got a boyfriend. This is inappropriate.
This is ridiculous. And
then she even lets him get super close to her when it's clear that he's going to kiss, and he puts down the wine, so he makes it very clear just based off the proximity is not normal human, we're having a conversation proximity. I did actually think that it was a little bit of a badass boss alpha move. If it works, it'd be too easy for this to go poorly. She didn't budge. She said no, which kind of shows I'm not scared. I'm not shying away from you, but I am. But also doing that feels like it would be a very easy way for them to just ignore you because of how close they were, that he could have easily just done the kiss anyway if he really wanted to.
True. But then, the whole thing about consent, I appreciate she put up her boundaries.
Yes.
She said no. Yes. But yes, say what you will, the lead up to it was a little, if I was her partner, I would feel uncomfortable if she was doing that with some guy where she's egging him on. She doesn't owe him anything. She doesn't owe him to teach him how to learn wine. It's all about saving this vineyard. And if it got weird and creepy and he's crossing lines, I'd shut that shit down and be like, no, thank you. all right, this is over. We can only do this when Issei's around because you're pushing boundaries and making me uncomfortable. I don't know.
And it just felt like it was the fact that she wasn't looking uncomfortable or backing away, to make sure that it didn't happen, maybe like cutting off the music, cutting him short when he's doing a story, any of those kind of things. It felt like the writers did that. That way it would build tension and make us wonder as an audience, oh no, will she cheat on Tomas? And then she doesn't. And it's like, okay, cool. That's the Camille we like. But it didn't feel natural. It just felt like they were doing that to make us wonder, will they, won't they? Does she like this Davit dude?
I do feel like this season has really soured me on Camille as a character. I think in the first season, you're very eager for her to win. You're very eager for her to be this underdog in this fight. And in this one, you just kind of seeing her be not great. She's kind of shady.
Yeah.
Just like doing shady shit with Davit, doing shady shit to her brother. I just feel that it's really hard when she was the main character in the first season, and maybe you could argue in this second season, Issei's more of the main character, but you should still want to root for Camille. You want her to succeed in this season, and all of her actions make me feel like she is Alexander Leisure, and I don't care. I don't want her to win. Tomas needs to go back to that other girl because you're not great.
Yeah. I've said it before, but I think this episode made it even more the case is like, I don't know who to root for because everybody's doing things that make me not like them. And in this case, the scene with Davit was really obnoxious because one, he's being inappropriate.
Yeah.
And yet he wants us to feel bad for him later on, even though what he's doing here is super sleazy. And then when he gets turned down, the way that he sulked off like a petulant child, where it's basically like, well, I'm taking my toys and I'm leaving, I'll have my servants serve you dinner. It was just like,
I know. And
supposed to be an adult.
Right. Am I supposed to feel sorry for him that he has been ostracized from his family and that maybe there was some abuse? Or do I feel not bad for him and hate him because he's trying to be destructive? He's trying to be a creep and just not chill vibes. I don't know how to feel about any of these people. None of these people make me, like you were saying, I don't want to root for any of them.
Yeah. And then this is just one of the few times that we get wine in this episode. And it was just treated in such a bizarre way where it was not at all the focus. It was way in the background and we didn't talk about it like we do wine. We, like you said, we quickly moved on to music and art and then this whole like, will they, won't they? And it just really makes it feel like wine is taking the back seat in a show that's, if you remember the end of season 1, the title Drops of God, at least according to the show, is based off of the rain that feeds the grapes that give us wine. So like wine is the beating heart of it.
Yes.
And it has not felt that way for the past few episodes.
It kind of felt that way in the first episode. We're going on a big hunt for a wine. We're tasting wine. We're all tasting it. We love it. It's good.
Yeah.
We're dumping it. It's great. We have wine pajamas. And then we're not even talking about wine anymore.
Yeah. There was also an interesting thing in the first few episodes of season about climate change that was happening that kind of kept coming up. And I thought that was an interesting thing that we possibly were following. And then I guess that was, just a small thing that kind of was in the beginning and not really being continued. So let's move on to Issei's vision. And then later the conversation that Issei had with Camille about it.
I hate it. This season I feel, is very good at starting these mysteries. Like, oh, what is it going to be? This is going to be a crazy thing, and then just showing you what happened. And I think that
Right.
you were 100% right that his mom tried to drown him.
Yeah.
And kudos to you.
I don't feel good about being right, but sure.
No, because the reveal was terrible. He had a vision, and now he remembers it. And Honoka, we're 5 episodes deep, and Honoka's been in it for maybe 6 minutes of screen time, 5 minutes of screen time, maybe. In this episode, we see her walking on a treadmill, nothing else.
Yeah.
How does her drowning him relate to anything that's going on?
That was actually one of the few moments that I liked, was that treadmill shot, because you can't see, it's super zoomed in, so you can't see she's on a treadmill. And the way she's moving, you can tell that she's walking, and yet the background doesn't change. So it's like she's doing a lot of moving, but she's not getting anywhere.
When I watched that scene, I had the subtitles on, and it said treadmill whirling. So I knew she was on a treadmill.
Dead giveaway. No, I liked it because it did feel like it was kind of a metaphor for her, where she's doing all these things for her family, for the Tomine Diamond business, honoring that, and yet all of that is just keeping the family name out of the gutter and keeping the business running. But it's not like, is she really putting her own stamp on? Is she doing anything positive? Is she actually going anywhere, or is she just walking in place?
Not in this season. She's not doing anything. Nothing. She's done nothing in this season. She was such an interesting and complex character in the first season, with the flashbacks about her.
Yes.
Seeing her interest in wine, seeing her infidelity, seeing that she was almost ready to throw her name away for Alexander Leisure. Like, there was so much depth to her. And now we're getting nothing. Except she tried to drown Issei as a child.
I do think that she will get at least a what will look like a redemption. And I don't know if that'll be a complete redemption arc, because they did the same kind of thing with Alexander Leger, where episode 1, season 1, they make him look like an asshole. And then as the show goes on, you kind of see things that make him look like, okay, he's not a great guy, or he's not perfect. He made some mistakes, but he is trying, and he's not a bad person. And so he started to have that, like, oh, you know what? He's not as bad as we thought. And then went like full villain at the end. So I'm not saying that that's where Honoka's will go, with like full villain, but I do think that as much as she's being played to be the villain, that we'll either see a surprising redemption and it'll end that way, or it'll be the double twist of like something that makes her look better, and then maybe she looks even worse.
But here's the problem with that.
Yes.
You explained it perfectly. With Alexander Leisure, who was a driving force through the whole season. He was a main character, whether he was alive or not. You could feel his presence throughout every test, throughout every decision that was made, through the flashbacks to the understanding. He was a main character in that first season. Honoka trying to drown Issei is not a main character. She's not even in this season. We're halfway through the season, and we have no character of what she is, other than she's ran into, I always forget his name. I don't know why I always forget his name. Issei's dad.
Oh, Hirokazu.
Hirokazu, which also, if we go back, when Hirokazu had to leave Issei because you drowned as a child. You can't do this to me again. But yet he saw Honoka try to drown him. He took him away from her because he saw her do it. So why is he putting that blame on Issei? It makes no sense.
We could get more to that vision, because I do think there is more to that story. And Camille already laid the groundwork for the fact that maybe that vision wasn't completely correct.
Not me. Not this time. I remembered everything perfectly. I didn't remember it for all my life, but now I remember it perfectly.
I I did not like when he told Camille, and in particular, because of Camille's response.
What do you mean her response?
So, when he told Camille, he was like, about the vision, he says, when I was 3 years old, my mom tried to drown me. And if I think about what most people's response would be to that, it would be something like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's horrible. I'm sorry that that it's affected you this long and that it's been repressed because of that. And now it's bubbled up to the surface. Like that's absolutely terrible. Camille's response is, so his thing is, when I was 3, my mom tried to kill me. And her response was basically like, well, when I was 3, my mom tried to save me. Like,
it's kind of messed up. It's a little messed up.
Maybe not the best time to like.
I mean, I did understand where she was coming from. Think about when you were 3. Think about big things that have ever happened to you when you were 3. Can you remember them perfectly? We already knew that he almost drowned at 3.
Yeah.
And he was dealing with this terrifying thing of being afraid of the dark. Maybe he did misremember Honoka trying to drown him. And that's a reasonable assessment.
Yes, but here's my issue with that, because I do understand where she went with that. But she didn't start with,
right,
maybe you misremembered it because I have this memory. Because if she started it that way, then she would at least make it clear where she was going with that story. When she first shares the story, it just seems like, why would you share a story about how great your mom is after I just told you how terrible mine was?
That's true.
Like, you're just making me feel worse.
Listen, I'm not.
And she even like has a pause. So it's like she makes it seem like story's over. My mom's cool. Your mom's bad. And then she's like, but it turns out that wasn't real. And it's like, okay, let's start with that next time. When somebody like tells a story the wrong way and it just like,
right.
It gets your head going one way, and then it either confuses you or like gives you the wrong emotion because you didn't know where it was going, and it ends up being a bad experience. That's what this was like. I think it allowed him for a moment to feel like, why am I sharing this with this person? Like she's really selfish.
That's fair. That's very reasonable. Everything that Camille is doing this season, I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't think she's done one thing this season that makes me go, yes, girl, get it. You're killing it. I'm very disappointed in her actions. And it's sad because I rooted for her last season. I wanted her to be the winner.
Like you said, last season, I didn't necessarily know who to root for, but it was because I liked them both.
Yeah.
Now it's like I don't know who to root for because I don't necessarily like either. I do think I like Issei right now a little bit more than Camille, but
sure.
He still can be rude and rough. So
he called her a B word. We do not call women that ever.
No, we don't. She did do something awful to.
She did do something terrible.
Steal his wine, and just trust me.
We do not call women that.
Yes.
We do not call women that.
Yes.
And it's disappointing that but I get it. He's upset.
Yeah.
I don't fault him too much
like
on that one.
Heat of the moment. Nobody's a witness. He did
it to himself.
I think we all make mistakes when we're by ourselves and kind of let our guard down. So let's talk about 2 more siblings, Davit and Tamar. They finally have the meeting. What are your thoughts on this section?
I thought that this episode had a really good job of like setting up these very interesting threads and then instantly resolving them. I was like, oh, Davit, Tamar, how are they going to talk? Is it going to be crazy? Are they going to get along? Are they going to fight instantly? They show up. Oh, we're all good. Hand on the shoulder.
Right.
Water under the bridge.
Right.
I felt there was such a buildup to this confrontation between them that when they finally met, it didn't hit as hard. It didn't hit me in the feelings. Like I wasn't touched by the interaction. I just was, everything's resolved. Everything's good. And they spend a whole day together, nothing happening, and then one thing is said and then it's all out the window. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm with you. So it once again feels kind of like false tension, kind of like the will they, won't they, where the writers are trying to write something to surprise us. And in this case, they resolved the situation really quickly with just a hand on the shoulder, like you said. And that was so that they could surprise us when he later gets mad, because it seems like it's all resolved. But the thing is, the resolve didn't seem so satisfying. So when they switch from the resolve, it's not as big a surprise, because it's not like the resolve felt so satisfying, was this like really strong moment. And then on top of that, the flip was so sudden that it felt unsatisfying. And if it's true, he had a very good point. And so for Tamar to not hear that, and if she has another side, to not at least argue that other side, or if she doesn't have another side, to not say something like, I'm sorry, like I didn't think about it. Like to just let him say that, and that is such a terrible thing if that is true, and just not apologize to him, not say anything, whether it's in defense of herself or like to apologize, like to not say anything after that and just let him leave doesn't make any sense. That she wouldn't have an emotion one way or the other of like, I need to stand up against this, or I need to like, wow, that was powerful. I need to ask forgiveness. Like, how do you not witness something like that and not have a strong emotional response one way or the other? So it just didn't make sense.
And it's so weird because they were spending all day together. The whole family was there. The daughter of Tamar, who we saw was bawling her eyes out because he got all upset about something, which we didn't see him get upset. We just saw
still don't understand that.
Pure terror in her eyes, but yet as soon as he's back with the family, she's all cuddly up to him. They're walking arm in arm. I don't understand the dynamic here. I don't get what we're trying to feel, what we're trying to be made to feel. And like you said, it was such a sudden turn. It would have been different if it was, maybe there was a jab where she's like, oh, there's the one that you peed in. Maybe he took that as a jab, but it's like a story we all know that happened. He did it. Yeah. So what does that matter? But we didn't see like constant jabs that were wearing on him. That was, okay, you guys are, you say you're over it and you say water under the bridge, but yet you're treating me still like I am this outsider. We didn't see any of that. We just see her make a toast and says, we forgive you. And that could have been, we forgive you for threatening to take our land. There isn't that, okay, yes, maybe what happened to you as a kid was really sad and really terrible. And maybe she should have spoke up. And yes, maybe she should have done something about that. But also that was such a long time ago. He even says the last time I saw you, you were on a tricycle, implying that they were really young kids. So what is she supposed to do to her father who's treating you like this? So the fact that she just says, we forgive you for what you're threatening to do to this vineyard that is this sacred piece of our family. Like in a weird way, they're upset because Davit took their mother away. But then also Davit is trying to take their vineyard away, which is like a piece of their family. So he's trying to do the same thing twice. And yet, so when she makes the comment, like, we forgive you for the current thing going on that's shitty, because like she's not doing shitty things to him now. She's not being mean to him now. She's not throwing him in a cellar, killing his dog. She's upset that her vineyard's about to be taken. So when it's all water under the bridge, saying, I forgive you for that, is a reasonable thing.
Yep. And now this is something that few other people are actually going to have thought about while this was going on, but being a sommelier, it was one of the things that was distracting me during an already bad scene. And it's funny because they addressed this season 1, so they should know this. If the writers from season 2 watch season 1, they should know this. The wine that they're drinking, they choose a wine that's, I don't know, like 35, 37 years old, same age as Davit. He was born in 89.
36.
Well, I don't know I don't know the year that is supposed to be depicted. I don't know if it's like 24, 25, 26, because I don't know how long it takes these to like come out. So I'm just like giving it a little bit of wiggle room.
I was born in 89.
It's like
he's 36.
Yeah. So the wine's supposed to be, 36 years old. And as red wine ages, it moves to kind of like more orangish colors and then moves to like brownish colors. And it gets lighter as it goes from that purple or kind of reddish color to that brown color. And at 37, it should at least have shown hints of that, if not having a decent amount of that. And it just looked like a young Pinot Noir that they, probably just, to me, this is another sign that they just don't care about wine this season, where it's just taking so much the back seat that it was in this scene. It was a part. You do see the Cavervis, it does mention some words. You see wine, they say some wine words, but it doesn't feel like there is a real love for it and that it's actually about it. It just is there.
And I think this brings us to the final subject of Camille's actions. And I think that this is a great representation of how this season is treating wine, because just like Camille is not respecting Tamar's wishes about the wine, right?
Mm-hmm.
The show is not respecting the wine, and Camille, who had more respect for wine, is now not respecting the wine and its process and the makers of that wine and how they got there and what it means to them. And Issei, in a way, because he's given this as a gift, and then she just steals it. It's really messed up.
It's extremely messed up. So I've got a question for you. She wrote, "Trust me." Do you think that? Do you think it's surface level and kind of what you described, where she knows that Tamar doesn't want the wine at the competition, she doesn't want it sold. That's not the goal. She knows that Issei is against that as well, and she's just like going ahead with it anyways? Or do you think she understands that and she has a plan that will help Tamar and doesn't involve the wine having to be sold?
I mean, I think that could be a way to build a respect for Camille after everything that's going on. But I don't think that that's good, because she, either way, if you have this plan or knew a different plan, she tried to go to Tamar about it. I have the perfect solution for this. Mm-hmm. Then Issei confronts her on it and he says, "You're not listening." And she's like, "No, she's not listening." So
right.
It doesn't seem like Camille is like all of a sudden like, "Oh, I have another new idea that is way better that Tamar and Issei are going to sign off on." Because if they were going to sign off on it, why didn't she tell them? Why would she just steal the bottles of wine? Regardless if she has a better idea.
To build tension. I think that's the reason, is to build tension. I do think she might have a plan, but I still think it's messed up you can't just steal somebody's wine, even if you are in the end going to do the right thing. Like, it's not cool to steal your brother's wine.
No. And that's my biggest problem with it. Like, regardless of how good intentions there are, because also Tamar was saying no. And so now if Issei says, "Camille took the wine that you gave me as a gift," because we kind of have this mother-son relationship. Yeah. Maybe not really, but they have a certain level of respect for each other and a certain level of caring. And she personally gives him this wine that'll never be made again.
Right.
So that is like, I'm giving you something that has and says, in a loving way to him, you can drink this anytime that you're afraid of the dark. Like,
Yeah.
such a great moment. And then Camille took all of those. So not only is that an affront to Issei, it is also a slap in the face to Tamar. So no matter what she does, it's messed up.
It also might be, now, it might be a slap in the face to Tomas as well, because I don't know, was Domaine Chassanra, was that preparing for this contest because they were putting their first vintage after having done, of like a new wine, after having done all this work on the vineyard? Are they entering the contest and that's why they've been preparing? And if so, is she potentially screwing Tomas by saying, I know that this wine can win? And so she's like putting in a wine that'll beat her boyfriend's wine?
I mean, I can't tell if... So there's two ways I look at this that could be either way. And that is, because they're not clear about it. Is the contest they're putting up their wine, or are they hosting the contest? That's what I don't know, because it seems like he's preparing for a contest. But if he's just putting up a wine, right? They have bottled wine. They have people working the vineyard that can bottle this wine. So it doesn't seem like that would cause a stress for him. But if they were hosting the contest and getting things ready to have a station set up for each wine, then that would make it more feasible that she's not screwing over Tomas. But still not great.
Yeah. Now, I do think that, she said something about like knowing the people and being able to get the wine into the contest. And so that does make me wonder whether or not this is our opportunity to finally see Lorenzo and Miyabi. Maybe they are, one of them or both of them are, judges on the contest. I don't know if we would get enough of them to like, those were two of my absolute favorite characters. And I am legitimately bummed. They were so important and they were great. And like Lorenzo, I think gave us some great comedic relief. Which, have we really had any kind of comedic relief this season?
No, the comedy and the livelihood of this season has been drier than a Merlot. You see what I did there? You see what I did there? You see what I did there? You see what I did?
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is more comedy than Drops of God.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay, so last thing, I quickly wanted to talk about, the brief small difference between like the show and the manga it's based off of. So the show has made major changes to the manga, and this season has gone even further away from the source material. However, the first season really didn't follow the source material that closely, but I do think that the first season at least captured some of the spirit, because the manga, if you think about it, the manga is the category it is seinen, which is for, I think like 19 to 30-year-old males is kind of what seinen is. Not that women can't enjoy it, but that's, kind of the target audience. And so it's more mature than shonen, which is for younger males. But it's still, I think, being for males oftentimes has fights or action, in order to kind of appeal to that demographic. And the manga isn't as dark as the show. It doesn't have all of this family drama in it. It's definitely lighter. It's a little bit more educational, more wine focused. But being a manga, it has all these duels, but they're wine duels, so like that makes sense with like comics of like having duels, like fights, that's a pretty common thing for boys manga. And in this case, it's in the, it's like wine duels. And I think the first season gave us that. It felt like these two behemoths in wine were going against each other and who would be the victor in it.
Sure.
And so you can see that. So even though the tone is much darker, characters have been changed, a lot of the events have been changed, it still, you get that at least feel of like the wine duels. This season, I don't get any kind of like thing that I could see this as being seinen, of being something for, that could have come from like a manga for older males. So it feels like a huge departure from season one. Not just that it's moving away from wine and into the family drama, but like really gotten away from like the essence of what season one was.
No, I agree. I don't know much about the manga, but it does, from what I've gathered, what you'd mentioned, it was like searching for the 12 apostles, which could have been really interesting, really cool.
Yeah.
It could have been great to see other wine people that were experts in wine that they had to go up against to prove their worth to get into a competition or anything. There's so many routes they could have taken this. And it just feels, the beginning of it felt really cool where they were going with it and the potential of this.
The concept was cool.
Right. Like
the execution wasn't.
No, it could be this big national treasure, finding this wine, which could have been another genre-bending move that it
1,000%.
Imagine traveling across the world, trying to deduce where this wine was. Each step, getting one clue closer. Every episode is a new place that they're trying to figure this out, and they get a new clue that brings them to this. And it just, they set up a cool thing, they found it, and now they set up this weird dynamic between people we don't care. They're still holding on to this weird dynamic between Issei and his mom that we're not getting any story from her, so she's not relevant. Imagine if in the next episode there's this giant twist that Camille's mom actually tried to drown her. It means nothing because we haven't been with those characters. She was in one episode. She had more screen time than Honoka at this point.
Yep.
She was in 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Honoka has been in a couple episodes, but for one scene that lasts maybe 30 seconds. And it's, how can you set this up? And I just, at this point, I don't really know where because now it seems Issei will probably go to France and be dealing with this competition, and Tamar and Davit are going to be on the back burner. Like, we set up this whole issue with them, and now we're not even going to talk about them. It just, it feels disjointed. It feels not connected to what it's supposed to be, the wine, and it's very upsetting. It feels like wine is the MacGuffin in this. This season, right? It's the whole thing is about saving this vineyard. That first it was, we got to find this certain wine, which is the MacGuffin. Oh, we found it, to get to the point to save this vineyard, and then we found it, and we got to save it, and we got to save the MacGuffin, and now we're doing something else. I don't know. It's disappointing. I'm sad because the first season is so good, and it's upsetting.
Yep.